Hello, church family and friends. It's 2 Minute Tuesday. We've entered the season of Advent, which is a season of waiting. For us as Christians, of course, we're not just waiting to celebrate Christ's birth. We are waiting to see Christ's return. Now, the 4 Sundays of Advent follow the 4 themes of hope, love, joy, and peace. Now, as I've mentioned, this fall our congregation is studying faith practices, behaviors that form us as believers, and really best understood, the 4 Advent themes are faith practices. As Christians, we don't wait for external circumstances to produce hope, love, joy, and peace in us. We have to cultivate and choose these 4 things. It takes practice. Now, this week's Advent practice is hope. We live in a world that tempts us constantly to give up hope. The past few years have seen this huge rise in pessimism over the condition of our country and the state of our world. And this isn't unreasonable. This has been a time of unusual political and economic and environmental upheaval. But you know what? I've worked as a pastor for about 20 years, and when I first started out, nearly every time I visited my congregation's oldest members, they would say something like, "Look at the state of the world right now. I'm so glad I'm done raising my kids. I don't know if I would want to do that today. Everything's terrible." That was Christians 20 years ago. What if we went back 80 years? What were Christians saying about the state of the world in the 1940s? What about 2,000 years ago? Well, 2,000 years ago, there was sectarian violence, there were famines and pandemics, there were oppressive political regimes, plus no cell phones, no internet, no streaming services. It was terrible. What were Christians saying? Well, half the New Testament is letters from first century Christian leaders, so we can know exactly what Christians were saying during that terrible, turbulent time. They were saying things like, "We ourselves who have the first fruits of the Spirit groan inwardly as we wait eagerly for our adoption to sonship, the redemption of our bodies. For in this hope we were saved. But hope that is seen is no hope at all. Who hopes for what they already have? But if we hope for what we do not yet have, we wait for it patiently." Christian hope is not based on a rosy economic forecast. It's not based on favorable election results. The hope at the heart of the Christian faith is not that the world is going to get better and better and better and that human progress will solve all our problems. Our hope is built on nothing less than the promise that the God who took on flesh to dwell among us, the God who rescued us from the powers of sin and death and hell, the God who comes to us by his Spirit and lives in our hearts, that this God with us, will come back. And when he does, he will undo every single human hurt and injustice. He will wipe away every tear. He will remake heaven and earth and call it good. And we'll be there to see it. So this Advent season, do what Christians have been doing for 2,000 years. Read Scripture and pray and worship. Feed the hungry. Encourage neighbors and friends who are sad. Practice hope.